Happy fucking New Year. And I'm just going to start this by saying a few weeks back, I did attempt to get on the financial audit with Caleb Hammer. And so far, I have not been selected, and that's totally okay. I certainly have more debt than I should, and that my budgeting, well, really just hasn't happened, and I've been overspending. But I'm not like a super, super extreme case, I guess, I hope, in their minds, although to me it feels extreme. And part of the backstory of this is that I have had way worse situations that I've dealt with. And I guess I'm a slow learner because you would think by now I wouldn't be putting myself in these positions, which is why I'm getting ahead of it now. I have filed for bankruptcy in the past, and I just saw the pattern of where I'm going now. And even though I don't really have a lot in credit card debt currently, the fact that I was considering even taking out more was telling me I need to get my shit together and actually take control of my finances and really look at my spending habits, how I can budget my money. And, I don't make terrible money. I live in Ohio on a little over $65,000 a year. My take home is roughly $4,000 a month, or $48,000, because I do max out my HSA because I do use it for a lot of bigger things and whatever. So this was just me going, I'm going down a slippery slope and I'd like to not. And also, a lot of my debt I can't even put under bankruptcy because it's student loans that I've been kind of, just trying not to look at. And I do want to actually do the right thing and pay them off. And I always felt like I couldn't get them in my budget, but after doing my own little financial audit of last month's spending, I probably can, actually, which is sad. It would be tight. It's not going to be fun. That's kind of the baseline of where I'm at. So the student loans, I haven't looked in a while. I didn't pull together all my debts because I do still have to figure out like how to find all of them and do all the adding up, because some of them were showing on my credit report, but I don't think it was all of them. So I feel like the last time I looked at the balances, now that interest has been accruing on them, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 88,000. So, a lot. And that was for two different degrees. I guess one was like a certification program, and then I deferred it to go to college and took forever to get through college because I was an adult working full time and just taking classes as I could. And so, not to say that, I'm not I'm like not excusing anything. I'm just, letting you know this is kind of the picture of it. And then when I graduated, I'm just like, I can't like afford this kind of a payment. But now that I'm getting paid okay, I am due for, I forget what the percent of my raise is going to be this year, but roughly a $5,000 raise. So that should also help. Also, I'm hoping I could back down my HSA once I complete a course of a very expensive medication. So there's that. And that would also probably help. Well, I know probably I should max out my HSA because it is a good thing to have, and it is a good vehicle for not only medical expenses, but in the future it can get turned into a retirement account. I also put in a little bit of money into my FSA, which is very limited. It can only be used for eyeglasses and dental. So I just wanted to have something in there because, probably should get new glasses after 5 or 6 years, even though my prescription hasn't changed a lot. I just, stuff like that. And then my dentist is out of network, so it's a little bit more expensive. So I was trying to get ahead of that, and that's been a good thing. Some other bad things, and part of why I saw myself going down this slippery slope, was I did take a loan out against my 401k, which I am not proud of. It was just, in my mind at the time, I'm like, well, I have a kitten that needs to be neutered, and what if something goes wrong and it needs more? Or something, I don't know. My mind was just running rampant. And then I started using the money for other things, and then the other cat needed to go to the vet, and then I was going to the dentist, and then my reimbursements from my dental insurance were, even though I thought I knew what the reimbursement was for out of network, and there's something where like it still was way lower than what I was expecting, so that kind of sucked, honestly. Other bad debt, I did purchase a vehicle a little over a year ago. I bought it, it was 1 year used, so that helped drop it down significantly, essentially half price. So that's 20,000, and then plus like tax title, so it was like 24. And then the projected overall interest payments, it comes up to like 30,000, which is, I'm not good. I only made one small extra payment last year. I was hoping to do more. And so that's not going where I thought it would go. Other things I've done in the recent months just to kind of help out and get some of my stuff under control was I did put all of my utilities that did have the option to do budget billing. I did do that, so that will help have a consistent line item in my budget. I do need to call my internet provider because they have raised the rates recently again, and that was the second time in a year, so I'm going to try to negotiate that. Another bad habit I really have that is one of my first short-term goals is, so my work offers, it's not called daily pay, but I think that's the house that a lot of people are kind of used to hearing is like the daily pay service. This is through Dayforce, which is like a different HR service software wallet thing, where up to a certain point before payday, before they run payroll, essentially, every day after 5 p.m., you can take out a portion of your earnings. And it does like calculate and keep enough back for your deductions, my medical insurance, that sort of stuff. And it started out innocently enough because I was like, I'm just kind of curious, like, I don't know how this is. And I was like, oh, you know what? It's kind of fun seeing my balances go up. Like every time I was taking, the daily pay feature. It does not charge any interest or anything like that. The only thing it does charge is there is almost a $4 fee if you want it transferred instantly into an account, but usually I could just send it the next day or just keep it on the card that is associated with that. But I do want to stop doing that because I've recognized that's become a bad habit and is not, because it is like sort of a prepaid card, but not on one of the major houses. I can't get it to sync with any budgeting app. I tried about 3 different ones so far, and it's just not available. So, and aside from that, it's just a bad habit to get into. And, essentially I'm taking away from my paycheck every time I do that. And then, payday comes and it's just like, oh, that's not what I want it to be because I'd taken out so much. And in some cases, I, had been using it as I might cut myself short, so at least let me do a daily pay and then pay a legitimate bill or legitimate expense. And then when the money's there, it's easy to go, oh, well, I can, I guess, also go out to eat or anything like that. So currently, I have technically 5 checking accounts. One of them I haven't used in so long, and I have to look at it to see if there were any fees that had accrued on it, pay it down. I was just having trouble trying to remember my login. It was just like a whole thing. So I feel like there were fees associated with that account. So I do want to see, I'm assuming it's gone negative at this point, and then pay it, close that account, be done with it. So then I have the checking account that's associated with the daily pay account. And obviously that's not something I want to use going forward. My goal is to stop doing daily pay by February. So that's a little bit of an aggressive goal for something that's become, a really ingrained habit of this is just a thing I do until they run payroll. And then I have a Navy Federal checking account that is supposed to be used only for groceries in my mind, except that if there's money in there, I tend to use it for other things. So I'm trying to be really good about that going forward. And then I have a Betterment account that I was going to just use for my rent. So I was direct depositing a little bit above half of my rent every paycheck because I do get paid, I think it's semi-monthly. So like the 15th and the last day of the month is when I get paid. And so I thought, okay, if I split it in half and, round up a little bit, my thought on that was there will always be a little extra money in that account. And then eventually I could pay a little bit extra towards my vehicle, which again, I only did that once last year and it was only like, I want to say $30 is all I wrote the check for. So like it was something, but not as often as I wanted to do it. And then my Capital Ones, I have a checking account with Capital One, which was meant to be like my spending and all my other bills, utilities, and stuff like that. And it's just been obviously basically a lot of everything. I have a savings account, which I had set up to have 15% of my take home put into my savings account, except that between every payday, I almost always transfer whatever's in my savings to my checking to cover something that I didn't budget well for, essentially, at the end of the day. So this is a lot of me growing up and learning to sit down and do these things and take it seriously. I also have a Capital One secured credit card. The limit on that is pretty low. It's only $200. I wanted to keep it more for just like business things because I do have a side business. And again, if there's any availability spend on it, I typically will just use it for whatever. So all of these buckets that I have in my mind, in theory will work. I'm just not following the systems I'm setting up for myself. And so that's near the limit right now. And then I have a Torrid store card, which I actually have been pretty good about since the first spend. The first spend was the worst because that's when it's like, oh, when you open the account, you get, I forget what the stupid amount off is of your purchase. So that took longer to pay off than it should have in my mind because I did buy more than I should have. And I should have gone home and paid it off right away. But then I was like, yeah, well, when it's due, I'll pay it. And then the money wasn't in my account when it was due because I wasn't being responsible. So that took a little bit longer. I currently only have, it's less than $40 on there of recent spend from last month. There were like 2 Black Friday things that, did I need them in my wardrobe? No, but I did do them. Actually, I did my own little financial audit of like bullshit spend. I did forget to put those on there. I'll just kind of round up because that was $40. So I went through all of my accounts and I don't have December's statement yet for a lot of the accounts and they hadn't come out yet. And then I couldn't necessarily screen record my transactions because of like it knew like it's a security policy for that app that they don't want you to do that, which great in theory for security purposes, but kind of, annoying for me trying to show you that. So I did make a spreadsheet because that's what I do. And I broke out, everything by the account, Capital One credit, Capital One debit. I didn't even bother putting my savings account in there because it's not like I was purchasing. If anything, I was transferring it to my checking account or using it to pay the credit card balances at every month. And then I had the Navy Federal and my Betterment, and then the Dayforce wallet is the one that I've been having a habit of daily paying. And as you can just kind of see as I'm scrolling through this, there is a lot of bullshit spend. And the one that stuck out to me the most that I knew I was doing it, but I didn't realize how much I was doing it. And that was the in-app purchases for Monopoly Go, because in my mind, it didn't seem like a lot at the time. Or I would tell myself, well, it's not like you go to the movies or, any other major extracurricular activity spend. So in my mind, it was totally fine. It was my little entertainment budget, but that added up really quick. Out to eat, when I was trying to guess how much I spent out to eat, before I even started adding it up and pulling stuff, I would have estimated about $40 or $50. Turns out I spent over $77. So almost a double what I thought I spent out to eat. So that was really unfortunate to kind of discover that. And I know $77 of out to eat spend compared to a lot of people is still not a lot. But the fact that it was more than what I thought it was my barometer. And then just overall unnecessary bullshit spend was just under $950. I did forget about the clothing at Torrid. So at that point, we'll just call it $1,000. So $1,100 of bullshit spending last month. And here I am thinking, why am I living paycheck to paycheck and struggling and I can't save money? Sure, I was being ruthless about completely unnecessary spend. So some of this does include Christmas spending, but at the end of the day, technically it was not necessary, or I could have done better at my spend on that. So I do take full responsibility and accountability on that. So that's, I don't know, something to keep in mind going forward. And with that said, did I add up all of I don't believe I added up all the Monopoly goes, and I did mean to do that. So bear with me for like 2 seconds. Oof. Wow. I am both glad and both kind of hate that I just did that, because it was basically $50 on a game. Like just pressing buttons in a game. That feels completely ridiculous to me. I probably would have, before looking at all of my statements, said, oh, I probably spent like, I don't know, $15, $20. So more than I probably should have, but it wasn't that bad. But that $50 is a lot. Dang. All right. There were 2 subscriptions that I completely forgot to cancel. One of them I have since canceled. That was the school membership to, I don't know, I haven't even gone into that little community anyway. It was like, I want to say it was like for like learning how to sell Etsy, marketing better or something, just because I do want to start expanding on my business and everything like that. Another thing I have done to potentially help with my income, if I have to take a little bit of a step back from the, business stuff that I do, because it's not making me currently like a ton of money, or it's money, but it's not really scaled yet. So if I had to take a step back from that, I'm totally fine with that. And I did sign up to do the Walmart Spark because a friend had signed up recently, and I was like, well, that sounds, interesting, like something I could do, and that, I can do it on my schedule when I can and have the energy to do that. And it turns out she must have been one of the last ones in my area that was accepted to the program, because I was put on a wait list. So I don't know how long I'll be on the wait list, but that is something that I'm at least going to try. I'm going to try to get back into Instacart if I need to. And then there is going to be a new restaurant opening probably this summer in my area. And as much as like I don't think I mentioned, so I'm 44, and while that's not old by any stretch of the imagination, the idea of like remembering what it's like to wait tables and run around and be on my feet for a whole shift physically pains me just to think about it. However, I think it would be worth it because it's going to be the shiny new thing in town and all of that other stuff. So it is something that I am heavily considering. I may also go to one of the other locations of that restaurant and just find out like some of the other positions, like hostessing, any of that sort of stuff. But I do tend to gravitate towards the gig work when there's availability for it, because I can just do it whenever. And, if it's just, I grab one order on the way home, it's not that huge of a strain. It only took me like probably an extra half hour out of my way or something, so that's kind of what I was thinking for that, but we'll see. And truthfully, even just building my budget for the month of January, I do have wiggle room in the fact that, $1,100 $100 was spent last month on just dumb shit tells me I can do it. But also, you know, I guess if I can't make a little extra money, why not? So, yeah. And then Audible, which I had meant to cancel. I had a reminder on my phone to cancel it. When I went to go cancel it, I think I still had a credit left and it said, oh, you need to spend your credit before you cancel. And then I forgot to come back to it and pick out a book, and then it charged. So I guess I have 2 books to me. I will say at least I was on the reduced Audible plan, because the last time I went to go cancel, I think it was like $12 or $14 a month. And so when they ask you like, hey, why did you cancel? I said, budget. And they were like, well, how about $7.99 a month? And I'm like, oh yeah, obviously. Or $7.49 or whatever it is. And actually, I just recently did that with Thrive Market because my annual was about to be due. And I was like, okay, as much as I do want to eat more organic and better and everything, I really didn't feel like the position I was in that I wanted to spend the $60 membership fee right now. And also, like, I can still do better enough choices that it is what it is. So, oh my gosh, I've been in and out. And so, like, the heat and the cold got me all rashy. So that is just something I really cannot control. It's not, I've had people ask, like, is it nerves or whatever? It really is not. It is just whenever there's an extreme change in temperature, my body is getting used to it. That's what happens. So ignore me. Sorry about that if it bothers you. Back to the Thrive Market was, so because I'm like, I can just try to do as much better as I can, overall with my groceries and still stay under budget, because I am, since I'm doing my own financial audit, I've seen where Caleb Hammer has suggested that for one person, $300 a month should be enough for grocery spend, and then about $100 of TP fund. So in my mind, Navy Federal, I'll bump that up to, because I do have it as $150 every paycheck, so $300 a month is what goes into that account on direct deposit, with the intention of that being groceries. I do tend to, as I'm grocery shopping, also do those household things. So I'll just bump that up to $400, so $200 every single pay. And that should cover everything and just be super mindful. That said, this month, I was planning on doing a no spend and also trying to see how far I can get into my pantry, my freezer, all of it, before I have to actually go shopping again, with the exception of a few perishables. Like, I will need eggs, Greek yogurt. I'm on the fence if cheese counts or not as something that I'm going to pick up tomorrow on a very, very, limited light grocery spend, because I do need the eggs and Greek yogurt. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I made a ton of notes to myself. Almond milk I'm probably going to need. And then if I need cat supplies, those are allowed. If proteins start to run out to the extent that all I have left is protein powder, to me that is not an appropriate meal. So that's when I'll be allowed to start buying, meats or, extra eggs if I want to do more, lighter things of that nature. I feel like it's fine to do meatless days here and there, but I don't want that to be like a point where I'm completely depriving myself of my protein. My protein is supposed to be kind of high right now. So cat supplies, no eating out in the no spend. So when I was looking at doing it that way, that's why I was like, okay, well, I'll get rid of the Thrive Market. And then they asked why. And then I said, well, because of budget. And so they said, well, how about this much off for your next couple of orders? And I said, no, I can't afford the monthly, oh my gosh, the membership fee on the 15th would have been $60. I think it's $59, but we'll call it $60. And so they were like, oh, well, then you can choose what you pay all the way down to, it was $19.95. And I went, well, okay, for $20, I'll do it. Because then at least I'll have still the membership then for the year. And that comes out to under $2 per month for the membership to be able to get certain specialty items. I don't do a ton of Thrive orders because I'm just one person, so they tend to be, I can fill the box and it lasts me usually like every other month before I have to. And then even then, there's certain items that I want to cut out in general anyway. Like one of the things I tended to get a lot were one of their energy drinks that had adaptogens, mushroom complexes, and that stuff. They do sell that at my local Heinen's, I want to say. I know I've seen it there. I think they were out of it last time. Also, in general, the last couple weeks I've been severely cutting back or trying to cut out caffeine entirely. Today I did have a little bit of caffeine, but very minimal compared to what I was consuming before. So those will no longer be part of those boxes. So I might even be able to get away with fewer boxes throughout the year. I did go ahead and delete any kind of restaurant fast food app off of my phone to reduce the temptation. So for the month of January, I will not be allowed to eat out at all. I do have at least 2 gift cards to a restaurant, but I still deleted that app. So that way I had to think about, is this something I really want, and put that extra layer of friction that I either have to put it back on or just, order at the speaker or whatever if I do decide in the month of January to go ahead and use those gift cards, but I will try to save them as long as I can. And then medicines, I know I just said I beef up my HSA a lot. I maxed it out, and it is largely in my mind because the one medication I am on is quite expensive. I want to reserve it for that. And so like for my like normal thyroid prescription is usually $10 or less. My next refill, I wonder actually if they ran it under my new insurance and that's why it was like less than half than what I was used to paying. So because I did notice that it was only like not even $5 this time. So I'm not going to waste HSA money on that. Or same thing, if I need cold medicine, tissues, any of that kind of stuff, I tend to not use my HSA card for. I don't know why. Probably because I'm sick and I'm not even thinking of it. And also probably because I'm just doing my Walmart Plus in-home order. And so I've got other things on there like soup or whatever. And they don't have a way to split the payment yet. So that tends to be easier. That is a lot of background and some insight into what I'm doing and where I'm coming from. So this was not like a full-on financial audit that, Caleb Hammer style that he would do. I did actually consider like playing him and then playing myself and doing a whole spoof, but I'm like, no, if he ever wants to pull me on the show, cool, it's fine. But in my estimate then, between the car, the student loans, what I owe on 401k, what might be old collections maybe, I have to look at that too again. I rounded it up to $125,000 of bad debt, which is like, I feel it. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel it right here in the pit of my like stomach. It's almost like instant heartburn as soon as I say that out loud and think about it, but I need to face it because it's all bad debt. It needs to go away. I do want to get myself A, debt-free. B is I want to be in a position to, in the future, these are long-term goals, put myself in a position to either make an offer on this house or another house, depending on just where I end up or where I decide I want to settle down and everything. And then my short-term goals are going to be stop pulling from my savings account, number 1, stop the daily pay, and then I want everything comfortably on auto pay by February, meaning I'm not worried if the money is in my account or not because I went and spent it on something stupid that I shouldn't have before those things were due. And then the next one right after that is going to probably be that I want that first 1-month emergency fund. To be completely transparent, I have tried to do the Dave Ramsey thing several times, like more than several times. And the reason that I really gravitated towards Caleb Hammer, other than, the sheer entertainment and I'm so fascinated. And then I was like, oh, wait, a lot of this applies to me too, which is why I did my own little financial audit really quick. And the fact that he said, it's not uncommon for that $1,000 to not be enough. And that's where I was struggling and why I kept quitting doing the Ramsey way, because I would save the $1,000 and then something would happen to my car, my previous car, or a big vet bill, or just really anything. And then I was starting all over, and it just felt like I was not getting anywhere beyond the $1,000. And it was incredibly frustrating. I don't know. So in a way, I'm glad like it wasn't just me, not that I want other people to experience that. So I do feel like 1 month emergency fund probably makes a lot of sense before I start really paying down everything else. So that said, I am going to go ahead and pay off the Capital One credit card. It is almost at the $200 and the Torrid this month. And so just because those are in a good position where they are not currently accruing interest, I think there were only a few times last year where I did not pay it off in full and did accrue interest, and it did kind of suck because it was like, did I even make a payment? It doesn't even look like it. So I've gotten into that habit to try to pay them off right away. But then I was like, okay, well, it's paid off, so at least it's, availability to spend anymore. So I do want to get rid of that debt and still keep that siloed into stuff for my business, and that's it. So it didn't show on the December spending if I only looked at December 2025 because I'm on the cycle is weird. But just before that, it was late November, I had put, it was my video editing software on to annual to get the savings. So that's another thing I've been trying to do, is making steps to pay things on an annual basis. So that way, it is a lot cheaper overall. It's usually a 40% savings depending on who it is. So the next one I want to put on to annual, I'm hoping next month or in March, is going to be Canva. So that'll be about $120 instead of paying, I think with tax, it comes out to like $13 or $14 a month. So some savings there. It's not one of the more significant ones, but overall it will feel better. My car insurance is a little on the high side because I have the full coverage and everything. So I am planning on shopping around. So it's just a matter of if I could get myself into a place where I could do that on the every 6 month, the semi-annual billing would be kind of nice. So, because it's like $160-ish a month, somewhere around there. That's a lot. Since watching Caleb Hammer, I did get pet insurance. The cat that did go to the vet last month, I have the claim submitted, and I'm just waiting to see if it's reimbursable, or I just might not have hit the deductible for them to reimburse it. So it could just be a matter of that if I don't see anything. So that's been a good positive thing to have, because I always think, well, but if I have an emergency fund, then why do I need pet insurance? But like, I'm never able, even though I always think, oh, pretty soon I'll be able to get myself an emergency fund, I don't. And even, taking the 401k loan, how quickly that went when I thought, okay, well, that'll at least be my, because I think it was just under $2,000. So I thought, okay, for sure, I'll have like $1,200-1,500 in my savings account. And then, like I said, the neuter and some other stuff. But then I don't know. I talked myself into like, oh, I can buy, this like $300. This was back in November, so that's why I didn't show up on this. I bought like $300 or so worth of yarn, of like a highly specialty yarn that is definitely on a no spend this year, or an extremely low spend. That is one of the areas where I tend to get carried away. I do love knitting and crocheting so much. However, it is so easy to justify, oh, but it's just yarn, or like, oh, it's just, it's cheaper than therapy or whatever. we all like to excuse our hobbies with, that needs to come to an end. And I put myself on a budget last year for yarn spend, and I way like overdid it. And especially when I was like, oh, well, but I'm getting money back from the state for unclaimed funds. It just hasn't come in yet. And so that's going to eventually cover it. But of course, that's delayed because everybody in Ohio is like, I want my unclaimed funds instead of it going to the new Browns stadium. I really don't blame them. That's exactly why I was like, oh, yeah, no, I really actually need to do that. So, mine's also stuck in the queue and I still haven't gotten that. And it's going to be roughly $400 when that comes in. So, you can tell all of my childish flawed logic. And I can only imagine if I had been selected to get on the financial audit, like how like that would have gone and the absolute beating I would have taken, and I would have deserved every second of it. And, and it's like weird how my mind justifies things. Like, I'm like, okay, but this yarn color is getting discontinued. Well, the whole line was getting discontinued entirely, and I really wanted that color. And so, like, a lot of my problem is that it's that scarcity mindset because I grew up not having so much and with, a very financially insecure household. So I a lot of times will be like, oh, but they're low on stock. I better get it now because otherwise, like if I wait, it's not going to be there. Or what if they're out of the color I want? Or what if they're out of this? What if they're out of, and it's not just yarn, it's a lot of different things. I am one person and I tend to like, okay, TP, I buy toilet paper for 6 months at a time, partly so I don't have to like remember to buy toilet paper when it runs out. Yes, you do save more when you do that typically. So that's been a little bit of a pro on that. But so maybe that wasn't like the best example of of like something that I'll stockpile or whatever. But that tends to be my mentality a lot is, oh, but they're almost out of this. I better get it. Or they're almost out of the color I want. Or, well, this is a seasonal thing, so they're not going to have it, so I better get it now. But I have noticed in the last few weeks, even though I've had some of those weak moments, at least I had it in my mind of like his voice of, is this bullshit? This is bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And I still might have done it eventually anyway, but it has slowed me down and it stopped me from other purchases. Like I almost bought a new Christmas tree because I didn't have like a full-size Christmas tree. I decided, you know what? I don't need a full-size Christmas tree. The little like 2-3 foot one I have, that sufficed for Christmas. Even though I was the one that hosted this year and it was fine. I did do like some other stuff like, oh, well, but now they're clearancing wrapping paper. So I did buy a couple of rolls. Did I need to? No. So kind of bullshit. I probably could have done better on gifts or been like, okay, I have this thing where I'm like, oh, but I really want this person to have it because I saw it and I know they would love it and it's really cool. And so like this year is really like me being essentially selfish and, recognizing I need to self-preserve and self-preservation myself before I can be so giving to everyone else. And it is so hard. And I do appreciate that he acknowledges that on the show when, people donate, like love the giving spirit. However, if you can hold off on those things, I'll be able to give in way more ways than I can imagine. Hopefully in the future, it's still kind of hard to picture that. And I feel like that's the hardest part for me is picturing that actually happening and the timeline on it. That was one main reason that I wanted to get on the show is if he could have calculated, because this is like stuff I'm not good at, if he could have calculated out like help with the budget, help being strict on it, and given me like a timeline, like when am I going to see the light at the end of the tunnel? I feel like that would have been way more motivating than feeling like, oh, you just do this thing all on your own. I did download his budgeting app, the DollarWise. It was very buggy, and even today it was a little bit buggy, and it's January 2nd, so we all have like, new financial goals, so maybe a lot of people were downloading it, and it was just a little bit buggy. Like I said, it does not want to tie into that Dayforce wallet, the daily pay thing. So that's all the more reason to stop doing that. And then I'd canceled it before the free trial, but now I can't figure out how to redo the membership on an annual and have it all tied in. So I did reach out to support. Last time I reached out to support, they were helpful. It was just like, there were just so many little issues, and it took a couple of weeks for it to settle in and really recognize my accounts and my transactions and everything. So his app is getting better if you've had like not the best experience, or if you just want to play around with the free version for a little while. So that it gets better, and it does seem relatively simple to use. So that was the main reason I wanted to get on the show, was like, I wanted someone to paint me a picture of, I can do this, because I feel like I hadn't truly believed in myself. I feel like most people around me that know how irresponsible I can be with money don't really believe that much in me, or I've hidden it from them and they think I'm doing fine. And part of me thinks I'm doing fine, but really I'm not. Like, when I really looked at it, I'm not. So back to being able to give, that was even something that popped up yesterday. Was a former coworker had passed away, and they were doing a GoFundMe for his wife and kids. It took everything in me not to donate. It really did. He was someone that has impacted my working life to the extent that it was actually just recently that I was telling a story to illustrate a point at work, because he was really that good about getting, like, he was the safety manager. So like, certain things and certain types of stories that would really drive home why you need to be safe all the time. So like, that was actually just in my head not that long ago. And the reason it was still hard to not donate, but it was easier when I saw that they were extremely close to their goal and probably going to surpass it, because it was only up for like 2 days, and it was like, they raised a lot of money. So that's awesome. So yeah, so I almost like broke my no spend in less than 12 hours yesterday. So yeah, it's getting there. The other weird line item that is in my budget right now for the month of January that will seem very unconventional is I did add a line item for groceries for my mom. I am helping her for the beginning part of January. And then we worked it out so that way I'll help her with her food stamp card and spending and everything. Just because, okay, first of all, she's my mom. And part of like how we are all contributing, that was going to be my contribution, is like, if she's at the point where she feels like she can't really cook for herself anymore, I was willing to do the cooking. Except that when I went to go like replenish some of my supplies and buy more for the next one, I realized, I was like, oh wow, this is like adding up really fast. So I did put a line item for about $100, should get me to when her EBT card reloads on the 18th. And then my brothers and I will sit down and make sure we get her everything she needs for me to make her dinners. And if she needs anything else that she can think of, we'll go ahead and do that. So, whew. This is a lot all at once. This feels really weird because I don't like talking about finances to anybody in my life. And here I am talking to strangers on the internet, and possibly having friends and family find this, who knows? So that's where I'm at. That's just kind of the intro of this channel. By the way, my name is Holly, and I'm getting my shit together, and I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, you are also trying to get your shit together. So what you can look forward to from me from now on is right after payday, or shortly after payday, I will be doing check-ins. So that will be roughly twice a month on my videos, since I get paid on the 15th and then the last pay of the month. So I'll go ahead, pay my bills, and kind of sort out what needs to happen with my money and where I can start paying down other things. I almost forgot to mention, my homework between now and next time is going to be going through all the just stacks and wads of papers that I tend to shove places and not want to look at. I do need to go through them and see if I can find some important tax papers and information for sure as well. But just going through all that and seeing, well, first of all, just getting rid of the paper clutter and filing the things that just need to be filed. And then seeing if there's anything financially that I am responsible for, and try to get a better picture of my full debt picture. So, did I just say picture twice? I don't even remember. That's really sad. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to do between now and the next time I film. I think having the accountability is going to go a long way, as much as I generally don't love accountability partners like for working out. No, I want to work out alone. I don't know why I'm so weird about that. Um, there's no good reason. That's my alone time, I guess. Yeah, we'll just keep going over my budget and see like if there's any change in my income. Like I said, I only talked about a few of my short-term goals for January and February. And if you want to let me know what some of your financial goals are for the months of January and February, some of the things that you're planning on doing, if you're using a different method, I would love to hear all of it. If you think I'm stupid, don't worry, I already think I'm stupid. You can tell me that too. I know I have made bad choices. So from now on, we are going to make good choices and do better and be able to feel like a fiscally responsible adult, because we can. And I just really appreciate you coming along the journey and, try not to be too judgmental. Definitely don't judge each other. Definitely do not judge each other in the comments. No name calling, anything like that, but I appreciate that you wanted to see how I'm spending and give your 2 cents if you think there's anywhere I can do better. Maybe February, I'll give myself a little bit of spending money. Maybe I won't. I kind of want to see how far I can do the no spend and again, stretch what's currently in my fridge, freezer, and pantry for now. But my best estimate is by the 3rd or 4th week of January, I'm probably going to need to purchase some things and have somewhat, I don't mind having weird meals, but I need them to be nutritionally reasonable. So, and I will look forward to talking to you in just about 15 days or so. And Happy New Year, all that fun stuff. I can't wait to go over everything with you in the next one. Bye.